So normally I reserve this type of thing for my operations update, but this is kind of significant. We have two things going on today. The first of which is clearly the Ukrainians are regaining territory. I mean, they've all but secured Mykolaiv yet again from the Russians by pushing them back towards Kherson, and they're actually pushing pretty heavily to potentially retake Kherson here in the next few days. The other big thing is they've cut off the bridge in Ukraine between Sumy and Kharkiv from the Russians. Now the Russians can obviously go around in Russia, but originally the fact that their Ukrainians are pushing Russians back over their border is significant. Again, creating more space in Kharkiv, they're creating space in Kyiv, which brings me to another map that I saw coming out of the Critical Threats Project, and I'll show you that here in just a sec. So I'm going to talk about an ongoing situation going on in Kyiv, and this map comes from the Critical Threats Project, and it's it's updating periodically, showing the towns that the Ukrainian forces have taken. So anything in blue was taken today, and anything in yellow was taken yesterday. And you can kind of see as I pan, there's a lot of ground being taken by the Ukrainians here. And this is the Belarusian border up here. The blue is what they've just taken in the last 24 hours, and the yellow was what they've taken in the previous 24 hours. Now the concerns for the Russia is, look at this. That's what I would call almost a rout of Russian forces. Any Russian forces in this area are likely cut off. They would have to sneak as individuals through the Ukrainian lines to get to Belarus. Anyone in this area is in a lot of trouble if they're Russians. Looking here, there's an overwhelming amount of forces coming out of Kyiv. Something like 200,000 military-age males able to fight back against Russians. And if you remember, Russia deployed 200,000 in its entirety to the whole of Ukraine, and there's a lot of fighting taking place on the east. So Russian forces in this area, I don't know entirely how much they have left here. So this is getting very ugly for Russia around Kyiv. Kyiv has a lot of standoff distance. They've been pushed out of the distance for short-range rockets and artillery. Now Russia's having to fire long-range artillery. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians are just taking territory in large swaths back from the Russians. Russians have abandoned equipment. They're abandoning supplies. They're just trying to get out of there because an overwhelming Ukrainian force is creating basically a bubble that's pushing outwards this way and pushing outwards this way. And if they're not careful, a lot of Russian lives are going to be lost.